Well, thank you everyone for taking the time to join us for our Driving Greater Social Impact webinar series. Today's episode will be on doing more with less, primarily focusing on capacity building. Thank you for Casey Pruden for joining us and being a part of this area where we try to build collaboration between other agencies and share best practices. So with that, we'll just get right into some of the content and details. Just bear with me 1 second. Share my screen. So for the agenda today, we'll be going over just some of the key topics of capacity building, hearing about Casey's experience with Community Living Toronto, avenues for what capacity building is that is a very broad topic, best practices, as well as quick wins if we're to identify the areas to increase capacity. And then we'll be talking about some of the direct support that Process Fusion will be helping agencies with. So if you haven't been familiar, my name's Marin. I'm the senior consultant with Process Fusion, leading the public sector with Roger Mack, our VP of development. Between the both of us, we have about 30 years of experience working from the ground up with many agencies, from small agencies under $500,000 to now we manage larger programs over $400 million in funding administration. So overall, the reason we're doing this is not about Process Fusion at all, but we really believe in fostering a way of collaborating between other agencies and using this forum where agencies can share their experiences and we can share best practices together. This isn't about one organization taking a lead and leading the way by themselves. We truly believe it is a community, and the only way forward is through helping each other and to building some of these networks between each other. So high level, Process Fusion really focuses on digital transformation. Our core work is really funded through multiple ministries and other agencies, where we focus on not the technology aspect, but really the core work from how people work through processes and how data and technology help them throughout the organization. So that is our core focus on how to eliminate and streamline some of those processes through open source technology and through best practice. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor over to Casey. Casey brings a wealth of experience from his multiple roles with Community Living Toronto in his career, but I am not going to steal his thunder at all. I'd really just start off by having Casey tell us more about yourself and really about Community Living Toronto. You have, as long as I can remember, Casey, it feels like 2 decades, or since I was a kid, you've probably been there, and CLT's grown such a long way.
Yes. So I think I do have an interesting perspective of not only the technology within the agency, but the agency itself. I have been connected and attached to the agency my entire life. So I am 3 of 4 generations that have worked at Community Living Toronto. We just celebrated just finishing the celebrations of our 75th anniversary. We opened in 1948, and my grandmother actually started working at and my father as well, at one of our children's schools way back in the 50s, just after we had opened. So as long as I can remember, CL Toronto, of many different names, has been part of my life. I personally joined Community Living Toronto in and around 1992. So I have a few years. I'm not going to do the math there, but I have been with the agency. I started in our service delivery teams, and again, children's services. And then in 1995, I had the opportunity to join the IT department. They had this very interesting project on the go of these things called PCs that they wanted to put on the desks, and this crazy thing called Windows 3.11 that they thought, you know what, we can make them talk together. So I've seen the agency transition over the years. Today, we're about 70 locations across the GT. We operate primarily all services within the Greater Toronto area. We're about 1,200 employees. We have a main office in each of the original boroughs of Toronto, and then we run one camp out of Stouffville. So there's a full-time camp runs during from May to September, and then we do short stays and day events for the rest of the year. During a year, we provide supports or impacts. There's physically and virtually with about 4,000 unique individuals. We also run a number of digital products. So we have 4 product families, and in that, or in each of the families, a number of different products. But in general, on a yearly basis, there's tens of thousands of people that will visit and leverage those technologies. So I've seen us grow over the years and change, and I think we're at a very exciting point where we've done a lot of growing, a lot of battle scars are on us, but we've learned a lot through the time.
And thank you, Casey. I think that's a great point. Like over the years, like growing to 70 locations, the amount of staffing and client perspective, and where CLT is today, right? I'd say one of the things is maybe if you could summarize, Casey, like how did, and if you have an entire lifetime of from Windows 95, like you said, to where it is, what was the path like for CLT to grow to such a scale, right? It's
Yeah,
not something that's traditionally seen in most non-for-profits, but funding and resources have always been a limitation.
yeah.
It's never easy getting these resources. How has you seen CLT get there?
Yeah, through the years, I think from the very beginning, the size of Community Living Toronto has always been an advantage. So we we are one of the largest organizations of our types. There's one other agency within Ontario, which is a little bit larger, Caris Services. But having access to money and budget has I think been a critical piece, as well as our connection and relationship with the government. So very, very early on, like I was mentioning, PCs. So the leadership team saw value in these computers, and how can we do more? And going into the 90s as the internet kicked off. So I am totally dating myself here, but
Yeah.
how can we leverage technology like that? And so in 98, actually, we kicked off a project that said, you know what, we are going to take computers, we are going to put them in every location. We are going to leverage these products that run on early web, and we are going to provide all of our employees access to technology. And that to me was really the foundation of how we got out right out at the very beginning. One of the interesting things is not only at that time, we run a product called Connectability, and this was a project that we joined with the government at that time, or the ministry, and we built out the first web portal where families and communities, or knowledge portal, well, families and communities, while they were waiting for service, could actually come and start to connect with one another. Leveraging, you know what, this portal, they could find out about different agencies. At that time, working in our sector, there was a blue book. And that blue book had the names of all of the agencies, how to get in touch with them. And it was a family's responsibility or onus to actually go and connect with agencies. So we stepped back and we thought, you know what an amazing opportunity here. Let's see what we can do. And this is going back, when you think about it, at a time that people were still trying to kind of figure out, how are we going to leverage, how far can we go? As a not-for-profit, I am incredibly proud to think that we were out there thinking about that already.
Mhm.
Going through from that point, our 2000s were really the first time we started to see, you know what, our technology stack was growing. our cost of our technology stack was growing. And we were really challenged for the first time to say, how do more with less, or do more with no more? And virtualization came in, and we adopted virtualization really, really early. It was very helpful, but it now, circa another 5 years, we are spending all of our budget and time in just maintaining the lights on, maintaining the patches, maintaining the fixes, because security starts becoming an issue. Bug fixes start becoming an issue. And again, we sit there and we say, we got to do more. We have no more. We're spending our time and money just to keep, at a steady state, but we need to figure out how we're going to progress. And it was at that time that we stepped back and we said, okay, do you know what? As CL Toronto in around 2015, we said, you know what? Are we a technology? Do we have the knowledge to go forward with technology? Do we have the skills? Do we have the people? And in many cases, we said no. We've built out. We have the foundation, but we're not sure we're a technology company. And so, do we go out to the market and look for, managed services providers, or do we continue down this road? So we took a step back and we said, okay, looking at everything that was happening in our sector, what is the impact of technology going to be? We'd been investing and managing individualized budgets actually all the way back to 99. 99 was the first time we went to the ministry and we said, you know what, this person has a living situation. All of our mundos bundled up, but we will actually want to associate a pool of money with this person, and we want to wrap services around them. So we saw in 2010 ministry was starting to go that direction. So this was going to be foundational as we started going through time, and it was probably a major transformation that was going to happen. Looking at the gaps and the opportunity, we said, okay, we're going to take a risk here. We're going to start to invest, and let's put a strategy together. Cloud was coming out, and we said, okay, our strategy is going to be this. We are not a technology company. We had built our own CRM. We're going out, we're going to leverage this thing called software as a service that was coming out. Let the large companies focus on building out and increasing functionality. We're going to redirect all of our resources to actually implementing that technology. So instead of finding ourselves stagnant, we are going to now leverage their investments to continue to project or to improve the functionality and the features that we have available to our staff. Likewise, when we looked at software as a service, the need for physical architecture and physical devices started to disappear. And we thought, okay, do you know what? We are spending a huge amount of money on physical assets. And again, we only have so much space. We had to invest in air conditioning and cooling and electricity. That's not a space that we want to play in. There is this new cloud infrastructure that's coming out. I think these allow us to push the skills and the growth back to people or organizations that are funded for this and geared towards this. Again, let's just look at how we provide better features and technology to our staff. And that was our cloud first approach. That, you know what, this is going to be the way that the world is going. We're just going to get it out a little bit ahead of everybody else. And in a sector that is going to be transforming. I don't think that the sector saw it quite yet at that time, or the entire sector. How do we fill those gaps with technology and position ourselves that we can bring knowledge as well as start to look at partnerships? And that's really our course to where we are today. We've built out a infrastructure in one of the cloud providers. We've leveraged a number of software as a service solutions, built some in-house software as a service solutions, and now are in a position that we feel that we can help other agencies start to transform or go through a transformation, which was not easy. And that was a path onto itself where we at first thought we were on a technical transformation and then realized very quickly that, you know, there's a business transformation built in there somewhere, because we were starting to shed this or challenge the thought process of, you know, what typically a not-for-profit would think about, and challenge that, you know what, we need to think of more like a for-profit in cases. If we don't take care of ourselves, we're not going to be here to be able to take care of or to support others. Very same concept I say as on an airplane, where, you know, the first thing they'll tell you is when that oxygen mask comes down, don't go to the person beside you. Ensure that you're okay so that you can make sure that others are okay. And that was kind of the position that we were starting to take. And then on top of that, we realized that it's also a digital transformation, because we're trying to transform our business into the digital world and start to do more without more.
Perfect.
So little long-winded there, but
No.
that's the path that we've gone on, and I think I've been in a very unique position, and I appreciate that I've been able to see this path through time. Rear view mirror is a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Great.
Wish we had one going forwards.
Yeah. Well, Casey, Marina, I want to speak for the audience, because
Yep.
we know that we have so many different organizations at different level of maturity. Now, CLT considers CLT a bit more advanced. I'm very happy to hear that yourself and CLT think about almost like digital transformation or technology adoption in the early stage. But when we speak to a lot of these smaller organizations, they already are budget constrained, staff constrained. They lack the knowledge in technology. They are already busy chasing after funding. They don't even put priorities on technologies, and they felt that, hey, we'll take care of the funding first before we look at technologies. I think the fact that you bring up the history, because Rome is not built in one day. I think the fact that you bring up the history of CLT starting in the earlier days, and you had to look at smart ways, using technology to optimize the process. I think this is something that all organizations can learn from, either they're small or large. We never start too late, or
Yes.
if you're a little bit behind right now, that's okay. Let's get started. Don't lose sight of the technical advantage to help your organization to become more optimized. Okay.
Yes.
Just so everyone's aware, what the information you're seeing right now is based on the 2024 digital non-for-profit investment report. So this is being culminated from North America across 1,200 agencies at various skills levels, from executives, IT directors, operations. So as you can see right now, key areas of focus have really been around program effectiveness, fundraising and financial sustainability, community engagement. As Casey had mentioned, when you look forward, how do you there's multiple areas that, in my mind, isn't exclusive to just one of these three areas that deal with capacity and growth, right? To deal with growth and capacity for an organization, you really need to look at those four elements. Like, as Casey mentioned, you have to make sure your air mask is on first. Financial and fundraising sustainability are paramount for any organization. Next is, how do you scale and make your services more effective? This is one of the main reasons I'd love Casey to talk more about what CLT is doing, because it isn't just about more with less, it's more with less without even having the less in there. So how can you manage that? These are some of the core areas of what I'm hoping to talk about today. And maybe we could just talk about, Casey, some of these core three elements, right? And those various aspects, like from community engagement outreach, financial sustainability, and program service delivery and effectiveness. What does that mean for you? And how has the organization, even looking forward, dealing with some of these three key areas?
Yeah. So program and service delivery, I think one of the primary pushers or directors on this, where we were feeling pressure, is that as we looked forward, people who we provide services to are looking more and more for us to meet them where they want to be met. We were working in a model that financially was sustainable, because, you know, it bring people together into a place where you don't need as many resources. You know, physically it's a lot easier, but it was a direction that the population and our I'm going to use it, our participants, our consumers didn't really want to be in anymore. And I think pandemic really drove that. So looking at our programs and services, how we've adapted, another great area is housing. So there's a huge pressure of housing within CL Toronto. Being able to early look at partnerships with builders. So there's a number of builders across the city of Toronto where we'll actually engage them ahead of time before buildings have started being built, and we're building out what we call vertical models now, and technology being part of the keys that, or the key pieces that allow us to do that. So, and I'm not talking about a floor that is dedicated to community living Toronto. I'm talking about a building where Community Living Toronto may be supporting people all across all of the floors. We may be running some larger group living environments in some of the apartments. But instead of having to now manage properties that have a maximum of 4 to 6 people that we can support, we're now able to grow without the capital outlay that we used to require. Leveraging technology now, when we think of what a cell phone can do, what a tablet can do, and mobility, being able to meet a person in their home, them not come to us, I think has been one of the big pushers of the technology, is being how do we actually build the infrastructure that we need. The other piece is the virtual. So we do offer people access to our services virtually. So they can come to a physical, they can meet us in the community, or they can come meet us online. And that again helps drive and manage the cost, doing more without having any more, or in some cases, doing less. Financial stability is an incredibly difficult one. As some may or may not be aware, our sector over the last fall and the spring had a 5 to survive, where what the costs of doing business and inflationary costs have really challenged us. But this is also one of the areas where I think having technology has enabled us. So technology doesn't allow us to, I'm going to pull us back. Usually when people look at technology, they think of return on investment. How much money is this going to put back in my pocket so that I can do more or hire different things? In our specific environment in DS, there's not typically a return on investment that's a hard dollar. What it does allow us to do, though, is instead of, because it's very difficult to hire the resources, where 80% of our cost is the people. What it does allow us to do, though, is redirect time from that administrative, from that data capture, from those high cost, no value operations and processes, and allows them to do more with respect to the service delivery. And that's really how we measure the return on investment, and that's how we honestly manage our financial stability, is
That's
through
great.
doing that and not having to grow. Now, is it a one-to-one? Not always. Is it perfect? No, but it's absolutely, I think, been key to the foundation of that. Community engagement, I'm going to say we've spent a lot of time in the digital product world. One of the keys is that as a business, we're doing more and more in the community. So it's not about bringing people to the space and place. It's again meeting people where they want to be met, where they want to receive services, and often where the service is actually better provided, so that it's in the moment. But likewise, we have products like our My Community Hub, which allow organizations and individuals to meet based on locality. So what's available close to my home? because this is my neighborhood, and I may be associated with Community Living Toronto. I may love the services of Community Living Toronto, but I want to take a cooking class, and I don't want to have to go all the way down the street or into another neighborhood. There's another agency that has a cooking class. So it's that digital space and place where people can learn about their community that they may not have known that it was even there before. And then likewise, we have another product called, or that we refer to as the digital influencers. And these are a group of people that are involved in our services, that are participating in our services, but being able to help support them in a digital voice, online, as a group, and interact and start to build out that digital community that once upon a time was a community of like-minded people, likability people, but the internet has changed that now. How do I become inclusive and belong within my own community? Just because of my abilities, I shouldn't be penalized for that, or I shouldn't be challenged.
Perfect. And I think that's one of the main points you even mentioned, right? Working hard and the need to work smarter given the efficiencies, right? Because the truth is, you aren't going to be able to reduce staff headcount, right? You find these efficiencies with technology. We see it all the time, and we're mandated the same way through our ministries and through our funding. But how are you going to draw those efficiencies so that you're doing more quality service work and serving more clients? I think that is truthfully one of the only ways we've seen going forward to manage this.
Yeah.
With reduction in funding, or even the same year-over-year funding, when you are being hit with 8% inflation, cost of living going up, and no additional resources coming through.
Yeah, one of the key conversations, Moran, that we see, and government is our partner, funders are our partner, and it's been amazing that they're willing to meet with us. But when I look at how budgets and how money was looked at through time, technology is one of those pieces that, it used to be a nice to have. It used to be one of those things that, you invest in, but it's not your core business. It's not, if technology went out, our business still functioned. We need, though, to transform. When we look at individualized funding, direct funding in our sector, where we're competing for people's services because the power and the money is being transitioned to the person, we need to start thinking like a business. And it goes to understanding our cost of our unit costs, how much it costs us to deliver services. And that's where technology is going to help us then. Once we understand it, how do we drive it down? How do we make it even more efficient? But helping the ministry, and I think funders and other smaller agencies understand that technology is probably that key, and we need to have a conversation about the transformation that's going to be required by any not-for-profit, any business, even outside of the DS sector, for its survival.
That's great. We are running a little bit short on time. So Roger, should we continue on this, or please go ahead?
First of all, there's a question from Joanne. Joanne asked, I didn't get any takeaway from Casey's comment about our financial stability. Not sure what his message was. I just want to give Casey a chance to answer respond to the questions.
Yeah, so our focus on financial stability right now is, from an internal perspective, it's looking at where we can digitize more and lower our costs of each unit of service, be it direct services or online services, and it's conversations with our funders to start to understand that, how can we get more to do what we need to do.
I also want to comment on that, add to what Casey said. CL Toronto, obviously, is a nonprofit, but it runs like a profit. Just listen to what Casey has been talking, right? You speak in like a businessman. You think about fostering relationship with the funder. You talk about increasing your community engagement, outreach, effectively scaling up your service to the community. So effectively, it's like marketing. It's like creating a higher so-called market share in the industry. So in a way,
Yes.
of all the nonprofit organizations do need to think like a business on how to expand the business, how to prove your value to your funder, which is something that we do all the time, because these days we talk about data analytics. The funders are looking for evidence of whether their investment or their funding are worth the investment. Using data analytics, providing appropriate report to the funders. Previously, the ministry only asked for simple statistics, but now they ask for outcome. They ask to see how your value is spent, how lives has been changed. So these are all ways you want to look into better data analytics to demonstrate to your funders the value of your service in order to expand your business.
That's a great point, Roger. So looking at that, we invested heavily in our information management team, and collecting data, being able to analyze data, being able to align data and connect data was absolutely critical to us being able to continue to invest in technology and truly understand what, not at a large level, but even at a low level, how money was being used and where it could be redirected. I think one of the other hard questions that we had to challenge ourselves with as a not-for-profit was sometimes saying no. That once we started to understand the cost of our service, having good hard conversations with our funders saying, I get that this person needs support, but we cannot fund and manage this at this cost. You're gonna have to come up with either more money, or we're gonna have to say we can't do it because we're putting more at risk than one person.
Right. But in investor perspective, it's almost like I put on a commercial hat, right? If you understand the cost structure of doing your business, running a nonprofit organization, providing a social service, you know what it takes to do it. You know what other organizations required to do it. Then you can really stand quite firm in front of the ministry or your funder and justify your cost. Now, if you cannot justify it, you really not too sure whether your process is optimized, you're charging too much, then it's hard. So that's why I think the previous slide, I make a comment. Working hard is a given. We all work hard. The funder expect you to work hard. But working smart is the only way to gain efficiency. Now, Miranda, you flip to the previous slide, Miranda. And I click. Yeah. So of course, for non-technical aspect, of course, corporate staff training, optimize your organization structure and business process. These are organization change you need to look at in order to gain efficiency. We also need to look at appropriate client and employee engagement. Now, a client engagement, which is the community engagement, we all recognize it, but even the employee engagement is important as well. Getting your employees satisfied so that they can work. You get a more harmonic organization, harmonic workforce. It can be more efficient as well. Then we get into automating your business workflow. These are all things that we need to look into in order to so-called work smarter to gain efficiency. Therefore, you can gain financial benefit from the efficiency as well.
Yes.
Okay, let's flip to the next slide, Miranda. Talk about Casey. You talk about the what you have what CL Toronto has been doing in the past up to now.
Mm-hmm.
Are there new initiatives or new ideas you're thinking about, or for this year or next year? Is this something that you can share with us? But the technology world changing so often. Of course, we talk the AI dominate or hijack the media. I'm just thinking, like, from your perspective, are there immediate things that you're thinking this year or next few years to invest in to support your staff and clients?
Yeah. So some of the areas are continuing to invest in digital connecting with people digitally versus physically. Being able to connect with people through technology at the moment that it's needed. I'm going to be honest, looking at the technology stack, there is a lot of work we're doing in AI. And the reason that we're tackling AI is we really do, and we're starting to see that it is a technology that will let us do a lot more with potentially some less, but definitely do a lot more with no more.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to absolutely agree. Yeah.
the one piece I'd like, even just hearing from yourself, Kefi, is what can be actually leveraged today, and even things you look to the future. But I look at CLT and some of the work you're doing today, right? You had mentioned My Community Hub. You even have your client portal services. These are different avenues that other agencies are engaged. But really, what piqued my interest was you talked about interagency communication, right? Of working with other agencies through this. These are things you help develop, but it's not necessarily just within your own house. It's being shared with other agencies, right? This is, I think, one of those crucial areas that goes overlooked. It's not one person doing it. Maybe you could expand more about how capacity can come about through these kind of connections.
Yeah. So looking specifically at our digital product stack, that was a joint partnership between government, funder, Community Living Toronto, and community. So for example, our My Community Hub was not it was a product or a thought by 9 agencies within Toronto of saying, we've got this problem, how do we do it? As a group, we brought the technology forward. But that's really what we look at, is partnerships where we can bring something to the table, but not and figure out how to fund it and get that technology to other agencies as partnerships without cost. So our My Community Hub platform, it allows agencies to now not only, post their services, people to register, but credit card transaction processing, which, every agency doesn't have to. If you don't do credit card transaction processing by joining My Direct Plan, all of a sudden you can do it. It's almost like that infrastructure and software as a service so that you can do more. In My Community Hub, again, the funder or government helps direct that fund. And the advantage, I think, to the conversation with the funder in that is we are now you're supporting with one funding source, many agencies or the entire sector, not just a little bit here and there. And the transformation and the ability for people to implement rapidly for a small organization is, I think, the key to those agencies.
Yeah, I think there's so many examples, and most of the organizations on the call, right? You can relate with key examples. Canada Helps. They have their information stack. There's technology where this can even evolve. Is it's not siloed within one organization. To Casey's point, it's pooled within the resources. It's shared. It solves a common problem, but it could benefit the smaller organizations just like the larger without a massive investment, right? And it can grow in the scale, just like economies of scale. This is something that I think all organizations are trying to look at, especially even us, Casey. So thank you. I think that's a major point we want to discuss. And just we'll do a quick time check. We have only about 5 more minutes left. I'd say one of the biggest areas, Casey, just one of our closing comments is really, you had said areas for capacity building, right? From your experience, Casey, where have you really seen the areas, not to reduce headcount to different areas, but where can operationally you find these efficiencies to build capacity or help change the organization to better provide these quality services?
So your first statement here, manual process. I'll give you a concrete example. We used to do expense management by passing, pieces of paper receipts through the internal mail, through email. We implemented a platform that allowed us to our staff to submit directly into an expense management platform. I can tell you within 2 weeks of going live with that platform, our measured times decreased significantly. We returned that one system, returned not only time to an employee, but lack of frustration that the employees were feeling. And it went 100% to redirecting back to service delivery. It was an amazing, and we see that over and over again. Changing of employees. So when we automated the process to send through employee changes, pay increases, hires, the time and the frustration that our employees feel now, it's a click of a button. and they're done. Things that used to take, weeks to do can now be done in very short period of time. And that again is our return on investment. It's returning time, removing frustration from our service delivery teams or even the back office teams has been the big piece. And it's another, there is in some of those areas some return on investment. If I think of how many people we used to need in our HR team because we had hundreds of pieces of paper that had to be typed, we now manage this with one person. And it's approvals, and it's not one team doing it, it's dispersed. It's taking process that used to be siloed and now dispersing them to the proper people, doing the right work at the right time with the right authority and accountability.
Perfect. So Roger, we just have 3
Mhm.
minutes left. Would you have any closing insights on this area? We will save the question right to the end, just in case we're
Yeah.
short. If you
Yeah, well, we don't have any more questions this time. I think the key thing is, CL Toronto is a very, very large agency. Our audience, I do not know what the size you are. The message really is, doesn't matter what size you are. You do need to look at strategically, finding ways to become more efficient, to build up a capacity. Besides organization change, business process improvement, technology is one area that we know, and Casey say that they can bring return on investment. So these are the things that we want each organization to take away. When you get to the level like a CLT or other large enterprise, when you already have everything all the system that you have, then you need to start looking at seriously looking at partnering with other agencies to create shared service, to make your service more available to your other agency, or to create a joint force with other partners to create a bigger service to scale your organization. So the message really is, it doesn't matter what size you are, there are things you can do and you need to do in order to sustain in this sector.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
So just really to close off, sorry, we just have to go through some of these points. One of our closing thoughts is we don't want to just make this a point, as always, of just giving face value treatment to agencies. As part of our Tech for Change grant is really to help agencies through this analysis and through areas, right? Casey had mentioned really how do you do more with less, or even re-engaging staff from administrative processes to client-facing areas. What we're offering is potentially between our larger projects is giving back some of our time and resources to help agencies do this analysis, right? This involves looking at the people, process, and data that an organization has and helping develop an industry best practice roadmap. This roadmap is not it's what we call non-vendor agnostic, meaning it's not made to be working with us necessarily, but it's based on industry best practices. And depending on the scope and capabilities, we would be able to help most agencies through this. So this is something we've opened up again. Thankfully, we're in the process of completing quite a few of these assessments. We've done this for housing, database management for our global organization for eyesight. We're doing quite a few around client service management, which is actually going to be focusing, like we talked about, on a shared service model. So just as Casey is investing in the organization, we are looking on how we can better support the communities in the sector with open source technology and platforms, right? So that we could create a cluster of sharing technology and information that isn't reliant on a single source. So to openly support organizations. So that is really all we want to say today. And I know there's quite a, so I think that we'll wrap up with our last Q&A question. Oh, I think it's answered.
Joanne also has another question. Joanne said our lease is up in 2026 and we will have to find a new location. The thought came to us about the idea of sharing a site with another organization and fixed costs like rent. How could we determine this feasibility and how to find another organization might be interested in some partnership like this? Casey also has some answer. Casey, you want to talk about it, Casey?
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that we looked at partnerships and cost management with 70 locations across Toronto. This year, we signed agreements with a couple of other agencies where we have opened up drop-in space as well as dedicated spaces where we provide the infrastructure in everything, that it's shared spaces. I think this is a critical piece, and one other area where we've done some cost management.
Yeah. Joanne, if you don't mind, you can send us, reach out to us, provide us more information about your agency or your organization, such as the size and location, and we can help you link up with the KC and maybe some other organization to help you with this.
So with that, everyone, after this webinar, I just would make a request that if you could please fill out our Zoom survey. We just want to really make sure we're hitting the right content, the information's good. And based on the information, I'll also send a recording as well as supplemental information such as the slides and the non-for-profit investment report. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time. I hope that some of you can potentially participate in our future conversations so we could build a stronger future together. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks. Have a great day.